All right. Good evening, guys, and welcome to the first day of class SQL for data analysis with your instructor from Potion Technologies, instructor Egosa Osayami. And with that being said, the show is yours.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, instructor Egosa, you feel free to begin when you can. Okay. So while we hold on for our instructor, does anyone have any familiarity from prior with SQL? Yes, no, maybe.
Sorry, I didn't get the question, sir.
Now, I was just asking. I said, does anyone have any familiarity with SQL? What maybe what it means, what it's used for? Just any vague idea?
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of.
No problem. Just let's air out our own opinions. We are here to, clarify and learn. We don't expect you to get it all right. Okay. In your own perspective or opinion, what have you heard about SQL?
Yeah, the SQL is just an abbreviation for structured query language.
Mhm.
Mm, is how do I would I say is a syntax based at the I don't want to use the big English syntax, but then it's just a query language for querying of data
Okay.
from a database and all that. So
Okay. How about anyone else? You just want to try? Has anyone else heard about SQL? What do you know about SQL? What did you hear about SQL?
some of the dependent systems of the
Sure. I think you're breaking up a
but
little bit.
database management system.
Okay.
I don't know much about it. I've
No,
tried
no
to
problem. Mhm.
look around, but that's all I know about it.
Wait, sorry, I didn't hear what you
okay.
said in the first part about database management system.
I'm saying I just know it's a database management system, something like that. I
Okay.
don't know much about it.
Okay. Okay. And
Thank
that's why we
you.
are here to learn and get, a little bit more clarity. Hopefully, when we finish, we would be able to say, hey, this is what SQL is, this is this, it's used for this, this why you need this flavor of SQL. This is why you need Postgres instead of SQL Server or MySQL or Azure or AWS for managing your database system. But Instructor Egosa, whenever you're ready, the floor is totally yours.
yes, sir.
Okay. I would go on mute and feel
Okay.
free to begin.
Good evening. Okay, good evening from here, everybody. Um,
Good evening,
so
sir.
my name is
Yes,
good
sir.
evening, sir. Good evening, Mr. Charles, Miss Glory. Good evening, everybody. So yeah, I'm Egosa, and I'll be taking everybody on SQL, specifically SQL with Postgres, like understanding SQL with Postgres, like working with SQL, writing queries and everything. But this is our first class, so we're going to be starting from the ground up. So I like the question that I mean, of course, it's easy to okay for some people that have heard of it before. You can directly tell, oh, SQL, it's an acronym. Yeah, it means something. Structured is there, then query is there, then language. When you combine together, it means structured query language. Yeah, that's the base, and we'll go from there. Some people also like calling it SQL. That's not my personal preference though. I just call it SQL directly. So some of you might see some places, do you know SQL? Do you know how to work with SQL? It's just their way of calling the same thing SQL. So for me personally, I just go for calling it the direct acronym SQ and L. Yeah, so it actually means structure query language. And what does this actually mean? Okay, structure query and language. Like when it comes to structure, what does the structure part mean? The structure part means like we're working with things like tables, like structured data. Structured data. Why do I say tables is structured data? Like a table now, for example, is divided into rows and columns. It's a specific structure. The structure of a table is row and column. If you're working in Excel now, right? Excel, they'll say you're not never lost in anywhere. Like you are never not in anywhere because there's always a cell. Like if you just click on a random cell, that cell has attributes, which is the row, which is the column, then the row or the row and column, any how you want to call it. Meaning that like if I click on random, let's say I click on Excel randomly, I might just click on the cell D3. That's the column D and row 3. So like I'm just saying that structure there means like we're going to structure data. Yeah. What the query part means, it's like when you say to query, when you speak about querying usually means like kind of like asking questions or trying to like communicate with something or trying to find out something about like find out an information about a given item, right? So that query part there is like, okay, trying to find out something, trying to communicate with something. And actually, what are you communicating with? You're communicating with your database. So people, you might run into questions like, okay, is SQL a programming language? Okay, you're learning programming. Okay, you're learning programming with SQL. Some people say I'm learning SQL programming. Well, in a way, I mean, I won't say their thinking is very, very wrong, but it's quite wrong. The reason why is because like SQL is kind of like a specialized something, like language specifically for database. Like if you want to go into the nitty gritty, like okay, things like comparing SQL now with something like Python, there's a lot of differences. I mean, with Python, you can start you can program games, you can program websites, you can do a lot of things. But SQL is like a niche language. It's a niche language used to just communicate with databases. So like you are manipulating databases, you are creating databases, you are doing a lot of things with a database. So the keyword there is with database, database. So SQL is a database language, a query language. Yeah, so today we're just and the main reason why we're learning SQL, because like I hope I'm not being too fast or being a bit confusing here, because like there's SQL, it's applicable in many, well, I say industries or many ways. What do I mean by that? Like different people, different sets of people can use SQL. Different sets of people, like a data analyst can use SQL, a
Hello, do you guys still hear him?
No.
I thought it was just me.
No, can't hear anything, sir.
But basically, anybody can use SQL. Mr. Charles, are you still with us? Hello, Mr. Charles, are you with us? Okay, I guess not. Gloria, are you still with us?
Yes, sir.
So let me ask you a question. It may seem like a personal question, but let's practicalize it. What do you have in your fridge?
I don't have fridge at the moment.
Okay. So the point is, the question I asked is a query. Okay. So let's say if you had a fridge, okay, or let's change the example. What do you have in your room? You may have a table and a chair. You know that because there's a structure, all those things are arranged in your room. Anything when you are asking, querying is basically question and answer. But if I speak in a language you don't understand, Madam Glory, how can you respond to me?
I can't because I don't
You
understand the
don't
language.
understand. So that's the same thing with the SQL. Is the language in which a human being can communicate with the database system. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, I want to put information in here. I want to retrieve information. I want to delete this information. I want to create this thing. I want to add it. Look at it like you are putting things in your room. Oh, I came back. I bought a plantain. I want to put this plantain in my room. In SQL, you can't just put it. You have to speak a certain language to it. I don't know if that makes sense, guys.
Yes, it does.
So, and a lot of people are intimidated by SQL because of the coding. Because of the coding aspect of SQL, a lot of people are intimidated by it. Okay? So, Mr. Charles, are you with us?
Yes.
I'm going
Yes,
to
sir.
ask you a series of questions, if you don't mind. We are still on the
Okay.
SQL language. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Question one, what is your name?
Charles Wonso.
Okay. Waiting be your name.
Charles Wonso.
Is it not the same question, but I asked it in different ways?
Yes.
But first, if when I asked it the second way, waiting be your name, the person listening, if they don't understand Pidgin, would they understand what we are saying?
Probably
Most
not.
likely
No.
not. Let's just assume they are clueless of it. And do you know that some people, they feel that is rude? They will say, speak in a language I can understand. True or false?
True.
So it's the same thing with SQL. You would hear them talk about Postgres SQL, MySQL, SQL Server. They use the same language. They're asking the same, what is your name? But they're asking it in different manners. They're asking this, it's a similar thing. Again, it's similar, but not exactly the same. Like, let me give you another example of how it is the different. You have Postgres SQL, MySQL. Because someone may ask, if I learn MySQL, can I this Postgres SQL, is it the same thing? It's similar. Like, and for the purpose, for all intents and purpose, a lot of us don't see what is going on here. Poshem is an international and a global organization. And sometimes our examples that we use, we have to tailor it to our audience because a lot of, like when Madame Glory came in, do you remember when you spoke about the culture shock?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, some people felt you were overreacting, but that is something I'm familiar with. And we tend to, address what does that have to do with SQL? To certain people, Postgres, SQL, they'll tell you, oh, it's no difference, it's the same. It's not really, really the same. It's the same way to some people. If they come in here, Madame Glory, you know how they will group everybody on this platform. What do you think they will call us? What do we have in common?
Pardon?
What does everyone on this platform, as on the Zoom platform, have in common if somebody wants to group us?
They are in Poshem.
Well, one, two, we are all, from the best of my knowledge, we are all African.
Okay, yeah,
Do you
sure,
think they will look at it as Kenyan versus Nigeria? Most likely
Not
not.
really.
Most likely not. If the person is not, has never been to Africa. It's the same thing with your SQL syntax. There's the general syntax, the general group in the quote unquote Africa one is called ANSI SQL, ANSI SQL, meaning it's a uniform, universal platform. It's a universal SQL. You have TSQL, Transact SQL, which is used by Microsoft SQL Server. You have Postgres SQL, which is used for, you have Postgres SQL, which is used by Postgres. And why is Postgres? And why is that? Because it's called open source. Anybody can edit the source code. You can easily download it. You also have what is called, there's a system called, you hear somebody, they'll say Oracle. They'll say IBM. They use what is called PL, Procedural Language SQL. Why is this important? When you start looking for a job and they say, oh, be familiar with Oracle, PLSQL, TSQL, they are just saying, does this person know how to communicate with a database system using a series of languages, the L in SQL is for language, that the database system can understand? Does that make sense, or does anyone have questions regarding that so far, guys? Mr. William, are we good?
Yes, sir.
Because we are talking about the different flavors of SQL. And when we now talk about for this class, we are using the previous SQL class. I tried to take them on, SQL, Microsoft SQL Server. So these are the different DBMS, like Madam Glory said, database management system. Some people, when they do their Postgres, they only use the command line because they have been doing it for a long while. But the PG admin, it's like it gives you an interface where you can click. It's recommended for beginners. You can see the difference, DBMS, database management system. But some people call it a relational database management system. Why? Because the data in your database is arranged in tables. Okay? The data in your database is arranged in tables. Does Excel use tables?
Yes.
Yeah.
You sure? Do they use tables or rows and columns? Your instructor is still here.
Rows and columns. The rows and columns, yeah. Cells, rows and columns.
Your instructor is still here. So I would ask the question again. Does Excel use tables or rows and columns?
Rows and columns.
Okay. But your database uses tables. Are you guys with me? Are we on the same page?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, it's just look at it like your house. You open the gate. When you open the gate, you open the front door. Then when you open the front door, you can now open your room. For the most part, not everybody's house again. True or false?
True.
Again,
True.
everybody's house may be a little bit different. It's the same thing. So when you have those rows and columns in your Excel spreadsheets, those rows and columns can make up, I think in Excel, they call it a worksheet, right? You can import that worksheet into your database management system as a table. So then that table in SQL will now have the rows and columns. So if you have two worksheets, it is recommended you import them to your database management system as two different tables. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Because we would have to understand, the difference between tables, how Excel stores data versus how, Postgres, your database, stores data. And when we talk to different database management systems, we have the MongoDB. These are open source database. We have MySQL. We have Postgres SQL. We have Microsoft SQL. We have Maria. We have CouchDB. But again, all these have a basic foundation. You are trying to talk to your database. You are trying to speak to it. How do I speak to your database? It's like if I want to speak the native language of Madame Glory, I would say, how do you say good morning in Kenya? How do you say good? Then she will now tell you, oh, well, Kenya has different tribes and different tribes speak different languages. True or false?
True.
So the different tribes, look at the different tribes as the different flavors of different SQL. A lot of people, when they come, they just want to click. Oh, I want to click. I want to show me where to click. Show me. I want to write code. As long as you can break your code down, you would always be good. Okay, what is this code supposed to show me? What database is this code supposed to get information from? Or is it supposed to update? What table? Those are some questions you have to ask before writing any code. The first question is, what database are we using? And we can go on to the next slide if we don't mind. What database are we using? Okay, what tables do I need from this database to fulfill this request? Once I can ask those two questions, you would make better decisions as a database person, as a SQL Server analyst, as a SQL analyst, as a Postgres analyst, analyzing it. And Madam Glory, we can see the example I gave. All DBMs have a slightly different dialect. The differences are small. It's the same thing. Look at it as the example is like, Kenyans versus Nigerians versus people in Equatorial Guinea versus South Africa. Yes, we are all Africans. Can I tell you, a culture shock moment I had in regarding to dialect and SQL? I was speaking to somebody. They say, "Oh, I saw your brother." I said, "Where is he from?" Oh, they say he's from Egypt. I said, "Hey, what's up?" Do you know what the guy told me? He said, "Oh, I'm not from Africa." I said, "But you're from Egypt." He said, "Well, we don't consider ourselves African." I don't debate somebody. Whatever the person identifies as, identify it. The person who was talking to us tried to get me to explain. I said, if he told you he's not, it's the same thing with SQL. Some dialects, you have to terminate it with a semicolon. That the semicolon is one that has a full stop at the top and a comma at the bottom. Some are very case sensitive. You have to put, or else it will give you an error. Okay? And when we talk of standard SQL, it's called, you also hear it called ANSI, ANSI SQL, meaning it is uniform. Or sometimes they will call it, I don't know if anyone is familiar with the concept called lingua franca. Well, in social studies, they told us it's like it's a uniform language. When there are different tribes and different dialects, this is one language that can connect us all. Any questions, concerns, or issues so far before we move on to the next slide, guys?
Just out of curiosity, I just want to know which language or which SQL this thing is used the most as the most popular. Is it Postgres SQL or MySQL or what's it called? This one from Google. What's this? I always forget what this one from Google is called. Which is the most popular? I don't know. The most used.
I was waiting for that question. That's why I kept asking anyone, because most people, when they're asking for that, is the popular one they want to learn because they feel it will give them a better chances at job prospects. Not, I don't know if that's but
plug into.
Yeah, but from my experience, the popular one, it depends on where you find yourself. Okay. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, let's say I'm in Nigeria and let me start with I'm working in Nigeria. What is the most popular language used by most Nigerian firms?
I would say the standard is ANSI SQL. Okay. Meaning, just like the PowerPoint say, if you know one, you can know most of them. Okay. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
That's if the person applies themselves. If you can write a select statement in Postgres, you should be able to write a select statement in Microsoft SQL Server. You understand? Your company can be using Postgres, and most companies use Postgres because it is open source. From a financial perspective, it is cheaper. They tend to save money. Okay? Like I, for one, I can tell you, I trained on Microsoft SQL Server. I taught myself MySQL and Postgres. Instructor Promise, are you here? Well, I think Instructor Promise may have dropped off. He is more familiar with MySQL and SQL Server. Do you understand what I'm saying, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you, sir.
So I don't know what other people say, but Poshem way, what we tell you is learn all you can learn. This is obviously time is a limited resource, but if you are grounded in one, you should be able to do the others. You should be able to understand database concepts and pick up any other, and you should be able to troubleshoot your own errors if your foundations of querying is solid. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even if you travel to UK or USA, if they say, oh, we are using Microsoft SQL Server here, and that is why purposely, the previous SQL class, I purposely trained them on Microsoft SQL Server. And this class, I'm training them on something different. So that for those who didn't take it serious then, they'll realize like, wow. Because Poshem is only one of the few places, and I say this with all humility, that can teach you all three flavors if you so desire it. And including database, the administration and infrastructure piece of it. The videos are on YouTube. It's public information for the Microsoft DP300 certification. And we are doing that for as low as 15,000 as of now. But in 2025, yesterday's price will not be tomorrow's price. I'm saying that on the record. I don't know if I answered your question though.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's you could start with Post, because if you could do it in whatever you can do in Postgres, if you can play around with SQL, try to do the same thing. And that's how we all work as a team. If
I think
Instructor Egosa is using this version, I would purposely use a different version so that whatever he can do here, I should be able to do it on this other side. Any other questions or concerns? Because to that your question, some people would not want to learn what everybody else is learning. They'll say, oh, it's competition. If people are learning Postgres, I want to learn the one they are not learning. Separate myself.
Yeah. Which is basically just like Excel and Google Sheets.
Yep. And there's another one. It's like Power BI, and there's another one, Tableau.
Tableau, yeah.
And there's another one, I think, Looker. Yep. So but when people ask those kind of questions, they are looking for, okay, what is your professional opinion? Which one will get me a job faster? I know some people, they tell them you don't need SQL to be a data analyst. What do you expect me to tell that kind of person? Obviously, there are some jobs that you will not touch SQL. There are some jobs, but at Portion, we train you to finish your food. Okay? Any other questions or concerns? Because we want to make sure your fundamentals of SQL in general is actually solid. Mr. Williams, you good? Madam Glory, you good?
Yes, I'm good.
All right. We could head on to the next slide if we want. Okay. Comparison. Mr. Charles, is like your answer to your question is even here. Does anyone recall us talking about TSQL? Transact SQL. That is used for Microsoft SQL Server. Postgres, again, open source. Remember, Mr. Charles, one of the reasons why we say most places tend to use Postgres, right?
Yes.
Okay, because it's free. So for all these people that charge you ₦1,000,000, ₦1,000,000 for training, and they're getting it for free. We were using Microsoft SQL Server. A lot of people didn't appreciate that. We were one of the few people who were trainees with an enterprise version. The license for that is at least $1,000 US. It's public information once again. So we said, you know what? Postgres is easier, affordable. Anybody can go online, download it, and play with it. Okay? And you see it here on the platform. It says commercial enterprise grade. It costs money. Open source. So most places will train you on Postgres and MySQL. Why do you think so, Mr. Charles?
Because it's open source and
Because it's what they can afford. So I don't know if you see part of the answer to your question.
yeah, I get. Yes.
Okay, so the fact that it is what they can afford may not be what the industry is requiring. And sometimes that if people see that, okay, it's easy to get people that know Postgres and MySQL, the company will have to lean towards that. You understand? Because if the company goes and use Microsoft SQL, if they have issues or to hire somebody to fill that role, it may be difficult. So it's a chicken and the egg, which came first scenario. Okay. The key strengths: complex queries, data integrity, extensibility for Postgres, Microsoft SQL Server, performance tuning, security. That's business intelligence. That's when you're mixing Microsoft SQL Server with your Power BI. And let me let you understand this, guys. You can import data from your Excel into Postgres or Microsoft SQL Server. You can also import data or export data from Postgres to SQL Server or to MySQL. Okay? But if your data is with, let's say, Microsoft Excel, Mr. Charles, would you want to put the data in a Postgres?
If my data is with what?
Microsoft Excel by default. Would you want to put it in Postgres SQL?
Postgres X. If the analysis requires that, I would.
Okay. So as data analysts in Portion, we don't have to overanalyze things. It's like you using iPhone and a Samsung charger. Do you understand?
Mm.
If Microsoft makes Excel and they're already making a product for database analysis under normal circumstances, wouldn't you want to keep all of them the same?
Yeah.
Ideally, yeah.
So no, wouldn't you?
That's what I'm saying. Ideally, yes, but a
And I
lot
love
of
the way
factors.
you stress the ideally. So again, back to that your question. Ideally, you have to learn all you can learn. Okay? There is no shortcut. Which one you cannot? Poshem doesn't is an international organization. It will not train you to think locally. Oh, just for Nigeria. Some of us are looking for remote work. True or false?
True.
Why are we now limiting ourselves to Nigeria or Kenya or South Africa? If you can learn Azure, learn the Azure as well. Some will say, wow, it's too much, it's too far. If you can learn the Mongo and the MariaDB, then they have the same similar foundation. I can spend 30 minutes talking about this because this is very, very extremely important. There's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of misinformation out there. You have to ask yourself, what can I do in Excel that I can do in Power BI that I can do in SQL? Okay, this is how it's done. Play around with it. Play around with it. Okay, if Glory knows SQL and Postgres SQL, maybe I will learn SQL Server and let's see if we can cross-train each other. I don't know if that makes sense, guys.
Yeah, it makes.
But it may take some time. Oh, let me be clear. It may take some time. Okay, because somebody will come out and say, well, you said it may take some time. But once your foundation is solid, oh, this is how you do it. You say, okay, let's try if we can do it. Okay, you can do this. Oh, move ahead. Okay. Postgres is popular for analytical needing complex data handling. Most of them do the same thing, but Microsoft SQL Server has a price base. It has a price base, okay? It's quite expensive. So most companies, if a company is going to make profit and they're already spending $1,000 on Microsoft SQL Server, do you think that's something they will want to do? Yes, no, maybe. What do you guys think?
Most Nigerian companies would
We are
avoid
talking
it.
of Poshem is not, don't limit yourself to Nigeria, please. Please.
No, I'm not. I'm looking at it from a business angle of a
Right, and I'm
Nigerian
looking at it from a globally business angle, which is why we are here. Okay? Because that is the mistake most analysts make. We want to earn in dollars. No Nigerian company will pay you in dollars if their headquarters is in Nigeria. True or false?
Yeah, true.
You have to understand the internet. These most mistakes most analysts make. You are the brand. What do you bring to that company? Oh, I work for Microsoft. I work for Google. You can't be working for you can't seek a job for Microsoft and say, oh, well, I know Postgres. Ideally, do you think they will hire? Do you think Microsoft will use Postgres?
Obviously
No.
not. They wouldn't.
Well, I don't. I mean, maybe somebody.
So it's very clear on that. They wouldn't use that.
You don't know that for sure. You don't know that for sure. They might have a vendor that uses Postgres, and the vendor is paying them a lot of money. They have to keep that system. I've worked with Microsoft, and I can tell you that for a fact. They would have to find a way around it to keep that Postgres and pull that data into SQL. And this is information and things you would not find anywhere else. Other people, they will say, no, Microsoft can never use it. This can never use that. This is why your foundation is very important. Very, very important. When you talk of Nigeria, a good number of Nigerian companies, African companies still keep their data in Excel somewhere. Or they open a free Azure account and move it to the cloud from Excel. You have to think globally. Please, Mr. Agosa, if you don't mind, there's a link in the platform in the Zoom chat. If you could click on the link, let's see if it will pop up on your screen. If you wouldn't mind. That's my message to you guys today. Please. It's not just in Africa. The ecosystem, the tech ecosystem, we are still trying to, get better by the day. But you have the opportunity to be a global entity. That's my message to you today. Okay? Let's scroll down a bit. So I don't know if it's a live. If you could scroll down on the screen, Instructor Agosa. Yeah, all the way down. Let's see the cost of these licenses. Okay. But okay, let's click one of it. Let's click one of them because it's supposed to show us the pricing of it. Okay. So that let's have an idea why certain places you go to, why they use certain items to train you. Okay. Hold on. Can we see those numbers? So if they want to train you, maybe they will give you the developer edition, which is a very limited edition. You get, and that is the quote unquote equivalent of the open source Postgres. But you can see the numbers on that for enterprise, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
Okay. So this answers your question. It's demand drives supply. But let's head back to the PowerPoint. Any more questions? Because this is your career, guys. Poshem is training you to make a well-informed decision. If you can learn one, it doesn't mean you will not learn the other one. You've not come this far just to look back, guys. So any questions, concerns regarding MySQL, Postgres, SQL Server, and other RDBMS, relational database management systems? Or any worries or concern, anything that was scaring you about SQL before you began the program? Okay, let's hit the next slide. Okay, so what is a database? We covered this briefly earlier when we compared tables to rows and columns. Does your table look anything, the table in this diagram, does it look anything like what we have in Excel? Hello?
Yeah, they have column names.
Exactly. You have your rows and column. But when you take that same, whatever you have in Excel and you import it, you put it in your database, the terminology is now table. It will have a table name. Okay. And we'll be giving you a data set to create your data, you create a sample database. You have your data set and you will go from there. The database is like your room. The database is like your house. Let me liken it to your house. The tables are like your rooms. So in a house, is it possible you can have 3 different rooms?
Yes, it's very possible.
And you have 10 different rooms in a house?
It's possible.
Yes,
We will not call it a mansion. But it's the same thing with your database. A database can have 1 table, it can have 10 tables, it can have 20 tables. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, it does.
And then it's in that table where you store the actual information is stored in that table. So yes, although it's stored in the table, but the table is also still in that database. So for you to get to that table, you have to know the database name and the table name. Does that make sense, my data analyst?
Yes.
Yeah.
So before you start writing query, oh, my code is not working, where are you trying to insert, update, or delete this data into? What is the table name? What database are you using? What database are you using? What table is it retrieving it from? When any of us were younger, did our parents used to send us to, let's say, go and call your younger brother, call your sibling, or do they used to send us on errands?
Sure, they did.
Okay, that is a query. That is a query. Hey, Madam Glory, please help me call this person. That's a query. Oh, please help me go and put this in the room. What your mama or your dad, what they're saying is go and insert this bag into the room, where the name of the room is equal to living room. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
First, you understand what they're asking you to do. There is two parts to SQL coding. I'm just speaking this mentally. It's two parts. One is, can I read what the code is asking? Then the most difficult part for most people is, okay, can I write this thing? But first, can I pick up a random code and read? Okay, why is it always select? Okay, showing me. Select means show me. It's like if I say, go and bring my shoe from the room. It says, go to the room first. Look for the shoes. Then select the one that is a red shoe for me. Most of us say we have not done SQL, we have not done query and all that. How many of us have eaten beans before?
Most of
Hello?
us. I said most of us have.
Beans?
Yes.
Okay, we should have said burger, Abby. How many of us have eaten beans?
I have.
Okay. What is the first thing we do to beans after we buy the beans?
You pick the
Boil.
beans.
Hey, boil. Anybody?
Select
the
it.
beans.
You
Hold on.
select
Somebody
it.
said something. You select the beans. Some people say you pick the beans. Some people say you clean the beans. But some cultures we say you select the beans. Doesn't that sound like an SQL query? Hello.
Yes, it does. It does.
Mr. Charles, doesn't this sound like an SQL query you're doing to your beans? Oh, you did not see it like that?
Yeah.
Moral of the story, SQL has always been around you, but we were focused on the food part of it. You are telling it, give me the beans, only the beans that is clean. Show me only the beans that is clean and put it in this sieve. Is that not the select process? Is that not the process of selecting the beans? Is that not what we do when we are selecting?
It is.
The point is we have always been doing SQL query, but we didn't look at it like that because we were just looking at the logical part. We have not looked at the syntax. Okay? Oh, mommy. Is it not the same thing with it? Is it not similar to the syntax that is on our PowerPoint here? Select that from this and this. Okay, select beans from this bowl where beans equal to, let's say, without hole. Look at it. Once you change the perspective of how you say SQL, your mindset will open up. You will start absorbing the information. You will become like a sponge. You will be looking, you will be hungry for the SQL information. You will be hungry for it. And one thing I tell people is this: the first time you are not going to be perfect with SQL, just like Excel. But when you keep going through it, you understand you will become good, better, best. I shall never rest until my good is better and my better best. A lot of people stop at good. They don't get better. A lot of people get better and they start laughing at people that are good instead of continuously moving ahead. Don't worry, Instructor Egosa, you can take the call. We will proceed. We will try to see how we can move ahead. Okay. Any questions or concerns so far, guys? Regarding components of a database, or components of a database, or what is this SQL something we are doing? For you to use SQL, the data must be related. They must be related to each other. That is one. That means there must be something connecting them. Either first name and last name, or like here, we are all connected by portion. Or in a bank, they may be connected by bank verification number or account number. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There must be something, it must be relatable. If you are an employee, the employee should have a manager. Or if you are an HR department, there must be something. SQL is used for relational database management system. Sometimes you will see NOSQL, no SQL. It stands for not only SQL. It's used for unstructured data. Unstructured data is like images, pictures, videos, and things of that nature. But I encourage you guys to ask your questions. SQL is not just the code, though. It's not just the code. A lot of people come here because, okay, yes, people have one goal. They want to secure remote job from home. Most people will be using Kona to talk it. State your expectation and count the cost. What is it going to take for me to get there? Poshem is not going to promise you egg and give you stone. But the question is, how far are you willing to go? So please, guys, any questions regarding SQL in general? We don't want you to be scared of SQL.
I have a question. In the real world now, apart from the general examples you've given us, like for example, in the screen right now, I see examples of banking system, library catalogs, and social media. I'm asking about database in the real world now. For example, now, the way I am understanding database, because for example, banking system, let's say a banking system is using a different kind of ERP, let's say Microsoft Dynamics, right? To store data, transaction, and everything like that. Where can SQL come in this place? Because all these things you have mentioned, the examples given down there, if it's social media, they have their own systems. Does it mean now SQL is the language to ask those questions in that database? Because already the companies are using a system to maybe store their data. If it's for, let me say, talk about banking is on it, I have an idea of. For example, now that my, so I'm asking now in the real sense, in the now workplace, where does SQL come in this case? Or is it when they want to ask a query on maybe a customer, how to get data from that Microsoft? Is that where the SQL comes in? How does it integrate now with the Microsoft Dynamics, bearing in mind maybe that company doesn't use that now banking system as an example? Thank you.
So your question is, where does SQL come in, right?
Yes.
Everything you do, right? When it comes to data, it's supposed to have a back-end database system. Are you okay with that?
No, I don't understand.
Everything you do when it comes to data, it has some kind of, they call it a repository where the data is stored.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you? Are you okay with that?
So does it mean like even if the banking is using these Microsoft Dynamics as the interface between their staff and everything, in there
hold on
maybe
now. Let's move from what we know. So are you okay with the first statement I made to you?
I'm trying to understand, sir.
Okay. Whatever you do, as long as it concerns data, the data has to be stored somewhere. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that is clear.
Okay, so even if it's, and so let's even before, when you're talking of the bank, Let's say you get a job with a bank as a Power BI, a data analyst. You are writing these queries on the queries on whatever in the front end, right? On your screen, you are creating a Power BI dashboard and doing your workspace and your gateway, correct?
Yeah.
It has to pull that data from somewhere. So on the back end, there would be either a Postgres SQL, Microsoft SQL, MySQL, and I don't know if in your Power BI, did you see a place where they call it data source? In Power BI, there's something called the data source, meaning where are we getting this data from? Okay. So it will need to have a database backend, like on your Power BI and Excel. Your laptop was your data source. So if you go back and check your Power BI, there's a place where it will say, okay, like when you upload the spreadsheet or whatever, the Excel, it would say C / this. That's where it's getting the data from. But in a real world system, especially in a bank, they would have a database system. They can choose to use Postgres, MySQL, Azure, or AWS, and then they would have to link your ERP system, like your Dynamics M365, because that's where it will pull that data from. And when they do that, they will not have to concern about security, making sure only the right people have access. Your manager may have more access. Some people may have access to update and edit reports. Some people may have access to only read the reports. But they would, so where does SQL come in? They have a database backend. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I never knew about that, but I understand.
They don't teach that to most data analysts. Because I had to ask some of them, all this query you're writing, where do you think is pulling the data from? So if it, like in the banking system, right? If a customer comes in and open an account today, where do you think they will store that information?
For me, I would say, okay, from my general knowledge as a layman, I would think it's the dynamics that is storing the information.
Because the dynamic is just a view. That's where you see it. But the dynamics pulls it from somewhere else, if that makes sense.
But at the point of entry, it's the dynamics entering with it, right?
Sorry?
Like the example you're giving, a customer comes to open an account, right? I'll key in the information in the dynamics. So
but
the dynamics cannot...
Sorry?
Pardon?
No, you are saying something.
So I'm saying, for example, like you're giving an example, I'm a customer to maybe bank A. I'm filling the forms and everything, the paperwork. The staff there will use the dynamics to enter you enter the data into dynamics. So me as a layman, I would think, yes, dynamics is
stored in dynamics. And what I'm saying, the dynamics is an interface, because the dynamics itself is what you call a CRM, right? It is like all those, it's kind of like a CRM, a customer relationship management software, I believe. Some other places we use something called Salesforce. You understand? So that they can see the customer's information, their name, how many products, how many accounts, and all that. It's an interface where they use to aggregate data. You understand?
Yes.
But the data is stored. So let's say if 10 years from now, that customer comes and wants to retrieve their information from what they opened 10 years ago, the dynamics may not have that information from 10 years. Do you think it may have it?
No, they erase because of storage.
Okay, that's that database system. Most likely they didn't even really erase it. Your database person may just be lazy to go back that far. That's the honest truth.
Pardon?
The database person may just be too lazy to go back that far and get your data. Like if you're working in healthcare, healthcare mandates people to keep data for 7 years. Anything after 7 years, they will tell you they've deleted it. Sometimes they have it. But because they are not mandated legally to keep it, they'll tell you, well, we're only required to keep 7 years. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I have the same thing set up for Poshem as well. That's why if somebody comes and tell me, hey, I've not gotten my certificate, even if the certificate is from January last year, I would not say, why didn't you collect it? I would ask them, what is your name? I would go in the database, pull it up. Even you guys' system, like we used Python to visualize your attendance sheet at one point. I don't know if Instructor Promise is still here, but it was pulling the data from somewhere else. And some people, some practical places would use Excel as their data source. But in a real life situation, a database, it can be any, some people would use Azure, some people use cloud. But yes, it has a database backend. Then part of that database backend, and this is very important that we know this. The database can feed the CRM software, the Dynamics. It can also feed Power BI. It can also feed, there's something called SSAS, Analysis Services, for if they want to do aggregation. Let's say check for people in finance, they are doing this. I don't know if you do aggregation, Madam Glory. Like if you want to check if a customer is worthy of loan or not, if you have to give them loan or not.
Yeah.
Okay, they will have to crunch numbers, and it may feed a different system based on their history and all that. But it's coming from one central source, but feeding different departments. Part of that data may have to go to HR. So if somebody gets fired, does that information come to you?
No.
Okay, because the data you need is not for HR purposes, correct?
Sure.
So that database, the HR department would pull HR information, manager, start date, whatever date from maybe a different database, but it is stored in a database somewhere. And they would also have their own HR interface. I don't know if I have been able to answer your question.
To some extent, yes.
What part is missing? Because this is literally what I do on a day-to-day.
So, okay, I've understood now the backend thing, because I was not even getting what you were saying, backend, front end, something like that. Front end is the interface of the person.
Correct.
Like now the normal stuff, maybe a cashier in a supermarket or something like that, the system they are using, the ERP or the CRM. Right?
That is the front end.
The backend is now the database, now where this thing the data will be born. Like now for that person, you're saying 10 years from now. Because normally, from my understanding, what I know, and maybe the places I've worked, after like some years, like 5 years, they used to tell us, I don't know, the system is slow because of, so they would close
data. Yes.
on our head the stuff to not access. Now I understand.
Yeah, because there's old data, they have to purge data. Yep, that is true also. And that goes back to Mr. Charles's question. So if the system is slow, one thing they could do is either buy more storage space or delete old data. What do you think they would do?
From my understanding, the way you're explaining to me, I would expect
No. I'm giving you a real situation. Is your opinion now, right?
Okay.
You're running out of space. A, you have two options. A, spend more money to get more space, or delete data that is old. What would you do?
Buy more space.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, most banks they will not do that. Anything that costs them money, they will say no. What can we delete?
But the information might be sensitive. It's my personal data, of course, I would delete. Because
that's what I'm trying to tell you. And we are getting into database administration territory, right? What I'm saying is, if they are not legally required to keep it, most of these organizations don't care. I hate to be the one to tell you, okay? If there is no consequence of them, like, okay, what's the worst that could happen? Sometimes they will tell you, sorry, and move on. Like some schools don't keep transcript after a certain year. It's easier if you come around, they will just try to, okay, make a new transcript for you and move on. It's sad, but it's true. They are supposed to keep that information even going back as much as possible. And most analysts, that work in a bank, in a firm, they don't even know it's called a data retention policy. Most people don't even know that. Let me ask you a question. In Poshem, how far back does Poshem keep your data? Do you know?
No.
That's kind of what I'm getting. And this is a real world situation. Because somebody may come to me that, oh, the certificate you gave me, sorry, I lost it. I will say, sorry. Do you expect me to know every single student that's come through Poshem?
No.
Exactly. So for me, with the knowledge I have from the real world, I had to create my own small database system. If somebody comes in and if you look at your certificates, each of them has a number. I can use that number to tell you, okay, yeah, this person is this cohort. They were in class with this, and this person. But the question you asked is a very great one, because most data analysts, they just teach them to, okay, when the data comes in your interface, analyze it. They don't teach them about security, like it's your personal information. Who else has access to that? They don't talk about it. But these are very, very important things we have to cover. Any other question? I don't know if I've been able to answer your question.
Not to my clarity. Let me just, I was
No, it's no
explaining
problem.
something.
What is missing?
What is missing now? I've understood the front end and the back end. So
Yeah,
me,
that
in
was
my
the first time you asked the same question again, which was answered.
now understanding the way you are saying, the
Mhm.
database lies in the back end, right?
Mhm.
So it can also get full, like you need now to delete that everything.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
they also get
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, it also gets full. Yeah. That's where you have to plan for your, yeah. It's like you look at it like, I don't know if you know what a drum is.
Yeah.
That's why the symbol for a database, by the way, is a drum. The more information you put in there, the more it will get full. Even your Zoom. Let me give you an example. Do you realize that this Zoom has a backend?
I never knew that.
Where do you think I go get the recordings from?
From the storage.
It has a backend. Do you get? And our storage gets full. I don't know if it's clearer to you at this point now.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the same thing with the banking system. They have, it's like, look at it like a database, like your box of clothes. If you keep buying more clothes in the box, what do you think will happen?
First, it will get fully fine.
It will get full, but do you think we see your box? We just come out and say, Madam Glory, your clothes is fine, your clothes is nice. True or false?
I get it now. Okay. Yeah.
So if your box gets full of your stored new clothes, what options do you think you have?
Buy new box.
Madam Glory, what options do you think you may have?
To give away
You can give away some, or you can buy a new box. That's a personal decision you would have to make. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because a perfect example of what you're asking is Zoom. Zoom has a front end. Most of us just see, we come in, log in, and leave. The next day, we just ask, hey, please, can I get a video ASAP? Why do you think we say, please give us 48 hours? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Another example is YouTube. On the front end, we see our videos, how many views and things like that. But on the back end, they have a storage, a database management system. I don't know if I've been able to answer your question.
Yeah.
Again, don't feel like you're holding us back, because I'm here. Normally I don't be in the class, but to prepare our instructor, Mr. Instructor Egosa, for the journey ahead. That we're not trying to make our trainees feel uncomfortable by asking questions. Because sometimes if I had not done this, if this is not what I do day to day and advise, businesses literally on a global level, most instructors will not be able to answer your question. This is what you're asking. The questions you're asking, Madam Glory, is what a database administrator does. Okay, how do we monitor our storage? How do we administer it so that we can have effective analysis? How can we make our queries faster? How can we make our code faster? You said you work in a bank, Madam Glory, right? Or the financial institution, correct?
I used to be there a while ago.
No problem. Have you ever seen a situation where somebody put their ATM or debit card, and just to get the account balance, it is just spinning round and round and taking a long time?
Sure.
That is a database issue. It's taking a long while for the query to run to the database and retrieve their information. That's a performance issue. But that's above the scope of data analyst. You get it's similar to you send your little brother or sister to go to the market and buy orange. They now start using the orange to play ball on the street and wasting time. Okay. So any more questions or concerns? Because we want to make sure your foundation is solid, guys.
In essence, so, we can actually say that database administrators work on the back end, while the data analysts, so to say, work from the front end.
Yeah, I would say that. But the thing is this, you also have to know this. Your back end is somebody's front end. But in a nutshell, yes. Meaning the database analyst, I mean the database administrator, every day they are in that back end. They don't know what you see. All they see is database. Okay, is this database backed up? Is this database getting full? Is this who has access to this database? The analyst doesn't see those things. They mostly see data. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Look at it like your phone. When you keep taking pictures on your phone, keep taking pictures. Do you really even exactly know where the picture is going to? All you know is on your phone. True or false? You can say, oh, it's going to my file, it's going to this picture, but do you really know exactly where it is going through? No. But you can sort it by, okay, January picture. Like for people that may use iPhone or whatever, some phones are smart enough to organize your pictures into by date, by event. Some of them will even tell you the location where you took your pictures. That is the phone analyzing your data on your front end. Mr. Williams, any other questions or concerns?
No, sir.
So we can move ahead to the next slide if there are no questions, but please ask your questions because this is your fundamentals for SQL. It is extremely important. Please, guys, it's extremely important before we go into the interface and the clicking. So is anyone able to share their screen? Let's see their PG admin screen. Let's see the beautiful install. Any volunteers? Thank you very, very much. Okay. So that's lovely. Madam Glory, you see on the left-hand side, right? Yeah, you see where it says servers. Let's click down. That server, you know, when I keep talking back end, this is what the back end looks like. You get. So let's click the drop down arrow on the left that says servers. Okay. So you have to connect to it. You see the difference between this and Excel? Does Excel ask you for password?
No.
So to connect to your database, this is the quote unquote backend. It asks for the password you set when you were installing it. Do you remember it?
I hope I remember. Let me
Hold on.
check.
Before you start typing, do you remember it?
Not often, but I can guess the one I put. I never expected it would ask me.
Okay, you are stepping into the administrative chair. And the reason why I say hold on is this. When working with data, security is a major key. So what am I saying? When you're on a Zoom class or whatever, sharing your screen and you want to type your password, it's okay to stop sharing your screen, type your password, then come back sharing. Do you get what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah.
Because this is the part of data analysis that they don't teach certain people. Data is very sensitive. It should be treated like gold, like oil. So, Madam Glory, if you want to stop sharing your screen, try your password. Then, if it connects, you come back in. Okay? Security is a big deal. And this is the backend I was telling you guys about. So, it's saying that, okay, what server do you want to connect to? So, please, Mr. Charles and Mr. William, if you can, if you do recall your password, please, what do you call it? So I think you're still sharing your screen. We see your screen, although the password is blotted out. It's imperial, so we don't see the actual password, which is a good thing. Please try to connect to your PG admin using the password you set up when you did your installation. Okay. If all is well, it should let you connect. Wonderful. Did you see any of this in your Excel?
No.
Okay, so you can see the server sessions means who is connected to my server. Can you guys see it? If you look at server sessions, but again, we are here for data analysis. Madam Glory, do you see what I say when I was talking about backend?
Yes.
As a data analyst, you will not see how many people are connected to your Excel. You can see it's telling you how many deletes, updates, or inserts are there. You see where your mouse is?
Yes.
Okay, you can see on the right-hand side, there's block IO, but you guys don't have to worry about this as a data analyst. You don't have to worry about it. I'm just building up on Madam Glory's question earlier. You see where it says block IO on the right-hand side? If you could move your mouse. Yep. You can see that there's a graph and it's going up and down. Mr. Charles and Mr. William, can you see it?
Yes, sir.
IO basically means input, output. What is going in and coming out? What information is going in and coming out? And we can see the graph going up. If you put your mouse there, you see it says 45 seconds ago. As a data analyst, did you ever have to worry about this in Excel and Power BI?
No.
So when we say the back end, that was the easiest word I could use for a 5-year-old definition. All these things, somebody is monitoring it. So if it's running out of space, this backend, it will show that, hey, it's running out of space. But let's go back to our data analyst track. If we look on our left-hand side, okay, we have our databases, we have logins and groups. In Excel, it didn't ask us for any login, anything like that, okay? So if we expand the databases on the left-hand side, and expand means just click that drop-down arrow, okay? By default, it comes in with a database named Postgres. It comes in with a database named Postgres by default. Okay? So now, how can we get data into our database? Any idea? And you can close all the, see that dashboard, properties, SQL, we can close all that too as well. Where it says dashboard, all those tabs that say processes, statistics. I mean, we can close most of them. Okay. But this looks good so far. Okay. Well, you can leave that one so far. You can leave this one. You can close. You see where it says dependencies? Dependent, and we could just minimize it. Let's get our workspace. Okay. Okay. All right. So any questions so far? Are we all on this screen, guys? Okay. So let's right click the Postgres database. Do you see where it says database at the top? And if you notice, the database itself looks like a container. It looks like a container. So you see where it says I don't know if it's yellow or brown, where it says Postgres. Yeah, that one. Let's right click it. You can see where it says create. Right?
Yes.
Click on the create, or let's click the drop down arrow. Let's see what else is there. You can see where it says create database. But if you are clicking it inside that Postgres, it will try to give you a script or a code. You can see where it says create script. Because there's a create and there's create script. I think if you go 4 down, create, refresh, restore, backup. Create script, right? If you click the create script, you ask you what code or what script do you want to create. The first thing we are trying to do here for today is navigate through our PG admin. Okay? The PSQL tool, we would spend a lot more time in that query tool. The query tool is where we write our query. So let's click on the query tool. It's at the bottom. The second one from the bottom. Okay. So if you want to write a query, and that query history means it stores most of your queries. Again, different instructors may show you different ways of doing this, right? If you want to write your create, select, delete, insert, I use the query tool. Why? Because it retains most of my history of queries I have typed. And if you go to the top, right, the top where it says no limits, blah, 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 those different icons mean something. Because one of the questions people ask, okay, I've written this code. How do I run? How do I execute this code? How do I save this code? Okay, you see the play sign that is grayed out. It looks like I think it's a triangle pointing to the right. Can we put our mouse on that? Yeah, the triangle pointing to the right. Yep, those ones. You can see where it says execute. And if you put your mouse below it, it tells you what it's supposed to do. You don't want to be one of those people that, okay, any script, they tell you any code, let me run to AI, let me run to ChatGPT. Your foundations have to be solid. You have to know how to navigate around. If it's Postgres, Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL admin would look a bit different. Okay, so how did we get to this point? We right-clicked the Postgres database. The database is the brown or yellowish one on the left. We create was the first option, and we scrolled all the way down to query tool. That's how we got here. Okay. We are not, again, writing any code per se today. We are just navigating the environment. All right? We are just navigating the environment. So, does anyone have any questions so far? Does anyone have any questions so far? Hello? Any questions or concerns regarding your PG admin? Okay. So since no questions, let's try to create one sample database. Oh, Madam Glory, what do you want to call your sample database?
Data Explorer.
Sorry?
Data Explorer.
Okay. So let's try this. In that query, we type in all uppercase, create space database, all uppercase, capital letter.
Pardon?
Yeah, I said let's type, we are trying to create your database, Data Explorer. So let's type in create database. So look at it like we are telling a 5-year-old what to do. Please, 5-year-old, create this database. So, and this may be, okay, create database. If we can, let's put it as uppercase, the database. Okay, no. So create, you put in the, so delete what you just typed, and database, DATA, yeah, create space, database, 2 separate words. We will get there, don't worry, we will get there, space, database, DATABASE. Space. Then whatever name you want to call your database, you insert, you put it here.
Capital letters.
It shouldn't matter. But capital letter would be recommended. But it shouldn't matter. Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. Now in Postgres, you have to terminate your query with a semicolon. Okay, so you put a semicolon after that. The semicolon is after the L. Yeah, exactly. So you see that. So now then we go up to where that those triangles are, where it says execute query. Yes, so execute script.
I click on it.
Yes, you have to. Okay, so this is it. So when you do something in Excel, does it tell you how long it took to do it?
No.
You can see at the bottom, right? It says query returned successfully in one. It's telling you it took 1 second to create this database. These are the things the database admin looks at on the back end. You get?
Yes.
So this, but an analyst may not care about all these things. It's like, oh, did it work or did it not work? So let's go back to our left-hand side and check if that database exists. So we can minimize the Postgres. We minimize it so that we can minimize just to click the drop-down arrow on the left-hand side. Yeah, just click that so that everything goes away. Then click the database is the one that said database is 1. We just minimize that too as well. Okay. So now the thing is, sometimes when you create these things, it doesn't populate. So you may have to refresh it. So you see where that Postgres 17 is at the top? You could right click it and say refresh. Okay. So you could, if you notice something, you see your Data Explorer database is there, but it has a red X on it. Are we all,
Yeah.
Mr. Charles and Mr. William, are you guys with us?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm with you. Yes, sir.
You can see the difference, right? The one we just created has a red X. What does that mean? It means you are not connected to it. Again, this is why databases are more secure than your spreadsheet. So if you are connected to it, it does that so that you will not mistakenly go and run a query against a database. Oh, sorry, I forgot I was connected to it. So let's double click on your Data Explorer and let's see what happens. You see what happens now? It has changed to yellow, meaning it is active. But do you have any data in this newly created database?
No.
Most likely no. So I would recommend, let's try creating another database. Let's just practice that. How can we create another database? Then the next step would be for us to see how can we put data. What are the different ways we can put data in our database? We can import database. We can import, the data. We can create tables, just create some sample tables, but we would need, what columns to name those tables, what data do we want to insert, and everything. It's like, and you remember, Madam Glory, we talked about back end and front end, right?
Yes.
On the front end in Porsche, when somebody comes in, they fill out an application form. I don't know if anybody remembers filling out an application form. The little Google Drive, Google form, Google Doc form. Does anyone recall filling that out? Maybe not this cohort. How about, does anyone remember filling out an attendance sheet at any point?
Yes, I do. I remember.
Yeah, but on the back end, best believe we take all that data and put it into a database. Best believe. You get? So, yeah, we take that data and put it in a database. You understand? So,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Madam Glory, can you stop sharing your screen for a minute, if you don't mind?
Okay, sir.
Let me show you guys, so maybe it will make sense, because that question you asked, Madam Glory, is a very thoughtful one. It's a very, very thoughtful one. Okay, sharing entire screen. Let me know when you see my screen and what you see. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, what do you see, please?
Just your Zoom
Oh, that is
interface.
just the Zoom interface. Okay, give me a minute, please. Let me know if it changes. How about now?
Yeah, I see one activity monitor.
Okay, perfect. So let me know if you see your name. I just typed your name. Do you see it? Uh-oh. Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Please, what do you guys see on the screen? Do you see any name on the screen?
Yes, Charles.
Okay, perfect. So this is my own, this is SQL Server. This is Microsoft SQL Server. Okay. So I just want to show you guys my own databases as well. So this is my own database. And again, your interface will look different because you are using Postgres. So let me show you this. Okay. This is the attendance sheet. Okay. All those attendance that you guys were filling out at some point, this is it. At least I think this is for one of the cohorts. I don't know if you guys could see this.
It's clear, it's clear.
Okay. So, but on the front end, on your own front end, Madam Glory, it looks like a, what do you call it? Google Doc spreadsheet, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, Excel spreadsheet for attendance.
Yes.
You get like all those things that you put to the name, the age, the attendance, completion. So if you want to give the certificate, when we're saying, oh, you can't miss more than 2 classes, this is the data set we use. So if we now want to tie this to Power BI, we would have to set up, it's called a data source in Power BI, and would make sure it gets this information from here. I don't know if that makes sense so far, guys. So any question or concerns regarding that? I've stopped sharing my screen, by the way. So this is one of the things we are trying to build your foundation on, so that it's not just the coding aspect, so that you understand how these things all interface with each other. But so far, you guys are using Postgres, so your interface may look different, but the concept is the same. Anything you can do on your interface, I should be able to do it on mine. It's just about how to navigate. So did anyone have any issues or errors when connecting to their interface? So
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Williams,
actually,
sorry.
maybe it's because I've not used mine.
Okay.
I actually,
So would you be able to share
mine
your screen?
it kept popping up an error.
So would you be able to share your screen? Or what we would do is let's do a screenshot of the error and paste it on the platform, okay? Because that would be one of the things we would have to work on. If we get an error, how can we, how do we go when we get an error? What do we do when we get an error? How do we build our confidence with that? The goal is let's not be scared of SQL by the end of the program.
Maybe as we wait for him to post the screenshot, I can ask this question. So
Sure.
the way I'm understanding this thing, the database management system, like every company that deals with data, whether YouTube's, Facebook, and everything, as a database management system, or which
they
they
should.
can.
Yeah.
Now, those database management system is what we are calling maybe MySQL, Oracle. So there are those few in the whole globally, like they are just whatever taught us, SQL.
Yep.
Not SQL, the Oracle.
No, yeah, you're right. It's different. People like example, Madam Gloria, are you with me?
Yes.
I can wake up and create my own today and say PoshMQL. PoshM. Yeah. It's at least maybe 10 of them. It's not that many. It's not that many.
All those companies operate with those databases,
Yes.
those like they send everywhere globally.
Globally. And in those companies, it may be 1 or 3 people that manage it. globally. Are you hearing what I'm saying?
Yes.
And this is something I'm telling you for a fact. This is something I'm hearing. Those departments are not that big. Because maybe they have networking people, security guys. Those departments, you will not give access to your data to everybody. But now most of them are moving to the cloud. Most of them happen to be moving to the cloud. Okay? Most of them are happening. So when you hear of cloud, you hear of Azure, you hear of AWS and things like. But the fundamentals remains the same because they have to worry about security and privacy of your data. Even if you are somebody who's working, let's say, for an immigration department or a school has to have places where they store their data. If somebody comes in and an international student goes to school overseas, leaves and come back, then they want to do their PhD 10 years after. And they need a copy of their transcript. Don't you think the school should have it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have to store that data somewhere. They have to. I mean, that's the key word is have to. Some people do a better job than others, but that's a whole different scenario. Okay, Mr. Charles, you would have to put that on the WhatsApp platform. For some reason, we can't. Oh, I think it's a little bit buggy trying to expand that. Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Is anybody having issues connecting to their Postgres SQL? If there are no issues, please try to create your sample database, okay? Because one of the things we have to talk about is in SQL, there's what we call DDL and DML. DDL, data definition language, and data manipulation language. Okay? There's something we call the DDL and the DML. Okay, so I think, yep, oh, perfect. So I wish, please, guys, I wish everybody, followed along the exercise we did with Madam Glory, creating a sample database. And Glory, feel free to try creating another sample database, call it a different name. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Don't be scared of the errors. You would see errors when you are doing SQL. You cannot make an omelette without breaking the egg. You cannot. Okay? There are different commands. The command is like, okay, you are making a request. We saw the create database we saw was an example of a DDL, data definition. What does that mean? We are defining what kind of, we are creating the structure. It's like before you have some houses, you will see that there are some uncompleted buildings along the road. They started, but they did not finish. Has anybody ever witnessed that? You are driving along the road, you see some uncompleted buildings.
A lot.
Okay. Please, guys, talk to us. Let's make it as interactive as possible. Let it not be that we just only speak up when we have error messages. The structure, the DDL creates the structure. Okay, I want to create a database. Then after the database, remember, the data itself goes into tables. So after that, you will need your tables. Either you import the data into tables, you will need your tables, okay? Or you have to create a table. All right? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You will have to create your tables. Create, drop, alter are examples of data definition language. What does this mean? Drop means you are dropping an object. You are dropping a table or you are dropping a database. And as we go, we'll learn what is the difference between dropping something and deleting it. What is the difference? We will learn that. So has anybody ever heard of a case of somebody that is drinking while driving? Like they are literally on the steering wheel and they are drinking. Have you ever heard of any case like that?
Yeah.
Okay. That is what they call driving under what?
Yeah, I have.
Driving under what?
Under influence of alcohol.
Okay, driving under influence. In SQL, we have that too. We call it DUI, delete, update, insert. Okay, so when you remember your DML, think about drunk driving, driving under influence. Okay, why? Because when you are deleting, updating, or inserting, you are manipulating, you are changing your data. You have to be very careful. Don't do it like a drunkard. DML changes the actual data itself. Okay? DML, driving under the influence, like, look, you are deleting data like a drone. Oh, sorry, I wanted to just delete one. I deleted 1,000. Okay? We have to do our basic research on DML versus DDL. When we talk of DCL, control language, meaning who has access and can we grant, can we give you access or can we revoke your access? Okay? So I will start. Then we have the TCL, transaction control. This is very, very important. Commit is kind of like save it. Commit this money to my bank. Save it to my bank. Post it. Put it in my account. Put it in my other. Rollback means, hey, I sent it to wrong account to roll that transaction back. Reverse the transfer. Okay? I know this may sound like a lot of jargons at this point. Like which one is this? Which one is when we start, but you cannot, when we're talking of SQL fundamental, okay, and I've put a website on the platform. Please, let's go to that website and let's see if we can save that website, w3schools.com. It's a good website to practice your syntax for SQL, especially for those of us who may have taken an SQL class before and they did not teach us to our satisfaction. Portion would recommend it. It is on you to dedicate at least an hour daily to get better at SQL. Nobody can do that for you. Okay? And please, when you share the error in the message, the platform, please at least try to give us a synopsis of what you were trying to do so that we can assist you. Okay? But please, guys, we have the DDL and DML, data definition language and manipulation language. If you don't remember, just remember that manipulation is anything that can change the actual data, meaning the first name, last name, address. Somebody makes a mistake on the data itself. Control language is, okay, what can you do within this data? In Excel, I think they have what is called row lock, true or false. Yeah, you can lock your rows in Excel.
Yes.
Our instructor is,
yes.
I know we went through that. It's like, okay, what permission do you have? Are you supposed to be in the SQL class? Yes. Can we grant you permission here to be here? Or do we have to revoke that permission from you? Like Madam Glory seems to have access to create database, create anything. At some point, we can revoke that access. She will not be able to do that. That's a data control language. Then we have commit. It's like, okay, I sent you money. Can you check your account? Oh, I've not seen it. And when I see it, I will confirm. When the person sees it, it means the transaction is committed. Okay? And sometimes if you have to roll it, you have to call customer care and they will ask you for your session ID for that transaction. So I would hope that, everyone is carried along, because with SQL, it's not one of those things that you want to say, oh, I will just miss the class and come back and watch the videos. If you're not carried in real time, by someone who understands the in-depth of SQL, you might drown in the deep end. And we don't want that for any one of us. Okay? So we've given one resource, W3 Schools. Okay? If I don't know if instructor Agosa can help us just visit W3 Schools. Let us see what the interface looks like. Because again, I would recommend to you, we cannot force anybody, But please, if you can put in an hour a day as a team, as a team, that is what Portion would recommend for you. Most people that have gone through data analysis have ended up in some kind of frustration because they didn't have teamwork. www.w3schools.com as we plan to round up for today. www.w3schools.com. It's also in the Zoom chat. Okay. So if we click on the link, this is what, again, the link is also in the Zoom chat. It is very, very helpful for beginner SQL. You can look at the syntax, of what it looks like to create a database, create a table, delete. You have to do research. You can't be a data analyst. Which one is more popular? And you say that I don't have data to research. You get what I'm saying? It will give you some sample data sets. If you want to learn about select, delete, where, max, it's a lot of things, but you can go step by step. You don't have to learn everything at once. If we want to create a database, you can see how the syntax looks like for creating the database. Okay? You can see the code. If you have any error, we can work as a team to help you. Our goal is to give you baby steps to get to where you are planning to get to. You understand? So if you want to create a database, what you would have to do is change the test DB name to whatever name you want to create it, call it. But we would go through more in depth at the next class, through our SQL, navigating our PG admin. What are some common errors? How do we execute a query? How do we save our queries? What are some common mistakes that new people make so that this thing becomes interesting and fun for us? We have about, I think, technically 1 minute. Well, I know we started late, so we would add the 10 minutes back. But any questions or issues so far?
None for now.
Okay. Mr. William, how are you doing? Any questions or issues for now?
No, sir, no for now.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Ed? Or I guess. Okay. So I would hope, hopefully by Wednesday or the next time we meet, we would be able to at least have all created our databases, work through our issues as a team, or the errors, sorry, as a team. And look forward to greater things. Do we have anything else to cover for today? Let's review the PowerPoint, please, so that make sure we're not missing anything out and our bases are covered. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So we have data types. I think we might be able to we could cover that today, or we could begin that at the next class when we are sure that everyone has their errors resolved. But basically with SQL, when you're especially when you're inserting data, there are certain data type. Like it's asking, okay, it's kind of like you have clothes. Okay, what kind of cloth is this? Is this kente? Is this article? Is this damask? Is this shirt? Is this cap? What kind of data type is it? Okay. You have, and based on the data type, it determines what kind of data you can store in that column. Example, you have an integer. And we'll put the question to the public. What kind of data type is an integer? What kind of value should it hold? If they say it's an integer, a column is an integer, what kind of value should it hold? Anyone?
Number. Integers are numbers now.
Well, no, integers are not numbers. So, anyone else want to help him out?
So let me say it's like combination of number and alphabet.
Sorry?
Like combination of numbers and alphabet. Like IDs.
No IDs. Anyone else? Integers. Someone please help him. We're supposed to be a team. Integer. As a data analyst, if we're asked what is an integer, what would we say? Feel free to research it, Google it,
I would say
it. Integer. My data analyst. Integer.
I would say integers are numbers. So even the
You're saying the same thing again. We said that's wrong. You're still repeating it doesn't make it right. Did you research it? Hello? Hello?
I can hear you. We can hear you.
I'm just reading what is on this thing.
Right.
Used for whole number.
Did you research whole numbers? You keep repeating numbers. If it's wrong, it's wrong. When you say integers and numbers, it's a decimal, not a number.
Oh, is that the logic? Yeah, the decimal is
It's not logic. It's real. That's the difference between a data analyst and a layman. Because if you say that in a meeting and they come, like, the whole ERP system you guys have created is wrong. It is going to be flawed. If you are doing it for a supermarket and you say, oh, whole numbers. So if the price of a good is 9.20 shillings, what will happen to the 0.20? Hello?
They'll make a loss.
They will make a loss. So that's why that whole number is that word is very important, because you as the data analyst, you advise, look, no, it's different. Look, this column, only whole numbers can go inside there. Or if they want to set it, look, at this column should accept date of birth. You cannot say, well, the date is actually a whole number now. You may need to look for a data type that is a date time. These are the little details. That's why I'm in this first class here, to build your foundation. A data analyst has to research. Every details counts. Are you guys with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yes, sir.
Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Madam Glory, you said you used to spend time in a financial institution, right?
Yes.
If my salary is 100,000 and somebody makes a typo and misses out 10, is 10,000 and 100,000 the same thing?
No.
Then I go to the bank and say, and they tell me, calm down, it's just 10. How do you think that conversation will go?
Not well.
Not well, but it's just, in reality, it's not just 10 that was missed.
Yes.
In reality, it is. The person say, I'm not perfect, I'm a human being, we all make mistakes. But my check is like, a lot of money is missing from my check. This is why those details have an integer is used for a whole number that does not require a decimal point or a fraction. Okay? An integer is used for a whole number. Okay? Then you have what is called varchar, variable character. Variable character, meaning it can have numbers and letters. These are very, very important. And that W3 schools would help us out as well. So if you are storing something like an address, it can be, the address can be number 17, blah, blah, blah street. It might have numbers and letters. Okay? But we would go through all this, step by step in details, different data types in SQL, because this will be your data type will determine what kind of data that column can hold and how much the length of that data the length of data that can go in that specific column. Excel, we did not really do data types. Did we do data types in Power BI? Instructor Peggy. Does anyone recall doing data types in Power BI?
Not really, not really.
Okay, maybe not. When we were doing the facts and dimension, I recall, I know that I think one of the days that I
Yes,
think,
we did.
yeah, I remember that day in class. That was the day Glory asked, what happens if you delete the data from the dimensions table? Does it also delete from the fact table? I was in that class. But we may not have emphasized data types. But data types are very important. That's one difference between SQL and Excel. Because with SQL, you have to be specific with data types. And these are 5 common data types: integer, variable character. You also have character, CHAR. You have var character, text, date, timestamp. Somebody may ask, what is the difference between date and timestamp? Some database management systems may also have money as the data type. Why is that there a difference? So that because the money puts the decimal point, boom, at 2 decimal places. I mean, round it off so you know that it's only 2 digits after the decimal place. And don't let this overwhelm you. When we start practicing it, you will see it and you will understand the grassroots concept. But Papa Charles, I know I was going to get you with that one. That's why I asked which one is. That's why I chose integer first. That's why I chose integer first. And most people, it's like, oh, where's a number now? Yes, that's where they will tell you AC and ceiling fan. They both blow breeze, but it's different level. Because we are training you ideally to be ready for the real world. When you're speaking in interviews, they know that somebody that is polished versus somebody that just did a bunch of random coding. Integers, variable characters, text, date, and timestamp. We will be having our assignments on Fridays so that we will now get more in-depth, hands-on. We will tear it down, build it back up. We will see errors, but the point is you will get better and better by the day. And this part of the reasons why we say, okay, let us do Excel first, Power BI before SQL. You could have done SQL first. There's no particular order. But the concept of database, data relationship, and how things relate, it should not be totally new to us. Okay?
Okay.
But it will take a little bit more of research than we did for Excel and Power BI. That's for sure. That's for sure. We would need a little bit more, personal research, personal push. But once you do this, the next step is Python. It will make your Python journey a little bit easier. That's the truth. Don't let anybody let SQL intimidate you. Don't let anybody let it intimidate you. But guys, any other questions or concerns?
None for now from my end.
Are we doing well? Are we good? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Ed. Yeah. Mr. Ed, how are you doing? I guess it's ED. Well, so do we feel okay to call it a day for today so that nobody's brain gets overloaded?
Yes, I think we should.
Sorry?
I said I think we should call it a day for today.
Okay. Madam Glory, how about you?
Yes, sir. I'm also okay with calling it a day.
All right. Thank you guys, everyone, for your time. But Instructor Egosa would be our primary instructor for this. We just had to bring a familiar face or name, whatever, for the first course, but we would be meeting on Wednesdays and Fridays, then Mondays, so Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And again, feel you guys know the process. If you want to set up a study group, figure out what time works for you guys, and just take it a step at a time. We are here to fully support you guys. Okay,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
no problem. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you very much,
Yeah,
sir.
and you too. We appreciate.